Hey, good afternoon. I think we're live. We are now live. These internet web things, they're confused, especially when you're doing it all yourself. So we are live. Good afternoon. It's Valentine's Day, February 14th here in beautiful Plymouth. It's not a bad day for February. I'd say it's like 50 degrees out here. Can't be that bad. Liking this global warming stuff. It's gonna almost be 60 tomorrow. So hey, this afternoon we're gonna look at a couple of stories. Got some Biden gaffes. We have some chickens that have died, apparently from the controlled explosion at the train derailment in Ohio. Awful. And we have some Corinne Jean Pierre. A sweet moment from her this afternoon. That girl is losing it. And we're going to talk about Jonathan Turley and Jim Clapper and the controversy that they're having. But let's just start off with the Biden gaffe, just to kind of get things going this afternoon. Here is Biden talking about oil companies and how much money they made and why they're not refining. He makes his own argument. Here you go.
In America, you had the oil companies. You know how much they made in profit this year? $200 billion in the middle of an energy crisis.
I remember when U.S. presidents were happy that U.S. companies made profits. Remember those days? What's good for General Motors is good for America.
Because they bought back their stock and they're not investing in refineries, repairing them, or maintaining them.
Now, I wonder why they're not investing in those.
Now, they're saying, and that's a legitimate argument they make, they say,
it is a legitimate argument. He's actually arguing. Oops, sorry about that. He's actually arguing against his own policies right here. Where do you go, Joe?
Biden, you want to go you want to go green.
Not easy
in
going
10
green.
years, we won't need this.
In 10 years, we won't need
that.
Well,
guess what? We're going to need oil for a long time. Gas.
That's right. We're going to need oil for a long time. He actually said this at the State of the Union, and the Republicans applauded because it's true. It's true. But everything that Biden is doing is making sure that we're oil dependent on overseas supplies. You can see recently how he's begged over at Saudi Arabia, begged at Venezuela for oil. Meanwhile, he's selling off our strategic reserve. Rather than being energy independent at home, like our prior president, Orange Man Bad, right? Under Trump, we were energy independent. That has been destroyed by Biden. And Biden wants to destroy it not only for his current administration, but so that it makes it nearly impossible for any future administration to re-achieve what Trump did. Let's go back to it. Oh, you can't hear it because I got to hit that button first.
Going to all go away. But look at all the refineries that are closed because they're not investing in the nature of the business they're involved in. As one example.
Again, he's like making his own argument. Now we're got to hit
this. You know how much they made in profit this year?
It's crazy. It's crazy, this thing. Here we go. That's better. Because he's making it like a situation like, why would you invest in petroleum, in the petroleum sector anyway, when he's basically waging a war on it? Man. Can't make this stuff up. You cannot make this Biden stuff up. It's just terrific. And he doesn't even know it. He's like making my argument, our argument. And he doesn't even realize that that's what he's doing. All right. So you might remember that in October of 2020, the whole Biden laptop came out, and there was a significant effort to basically label that as Russian disinformation. It helped Twitter suppress the story. It helped a lot of other media outlets. Oh, look at all these experts have said that it's Russian disinformation. And basically, they crushed the story prior to the election in 2020. So that was in October and early November of 2020. Part of the effort to crush the whole Hunter Biden laptop story was this letter that was sent by about 50 top national security experts that said this has all the fingerprints of Russian disinformation. So that came out in a story in Politico back in October 19th, to be precise. Hunter Biden story is Russian disinformation, dozens of former intel officials say. More than 50 former intelligence officials signed a letter casting doubt on the provenance. How do you say that? Where it came from, let's just say, on the authenticity. I can't believe I've always had trouble pronouncing that. Of a New York Post story, Miranda Devine, of the former vice president's son. Remember, the way they said that is because he has not yet been elected president as of October 19th of 2020. So right now he's just a former vice president. This came out, and it basically allowed the establishment cover for ignoring the story. Now, James Clapper, who is the, how do we want to say this, chief, one of the chief advocates of this letter and of calling the whole laptop story Russian disinformation, he is now coming out and saying that, oh no, the whole letter was misconstrued. And Jonathan Turley, this is Clapper, Jonathan Turley isn't buying it. He ain't buying it. Clapper, the former CIA director, played an intimate role in hatching the Russian collusion hoax targeting Donald Trump. Recently told the Washington Post that the letter he signed dismissing Hunter Biden's laptop was not meant to dismiss the laptop as Russian. He's like, oh no, I didn't mean that. Here's Jonathan Turley. Clapper hit Politico for distorting his infamous letter on the Hunter laptop. He insists that shortly before the election, they were merely raising the possibility that it might be Russian disinformation. Oh, okay, just raising the possibility. Excuse me while I take a sip from my Let's Go Brandon mug. Even though it was signed by 50 high-ranking, do you think that these aren't 50 like high school kids? These are 50 high-ranking national security. They know what they're signing. They read it over with a fine-tooth comb. Of course, that is a very profile of disinformation that Twitter, for instance, and other companies used as to censor others. When scientists and pundits stated that they were offering alternative views on COVID or elections, they were censored or suspended. Notably, thank you, Jonathan Turley. Here's the money quote. I do not recall Clapper rushing forward before the election. In other words, in the immediate aftermath of the release of this letter in October 19th, 2020, to correct the widespread use of the letter to dismiss the laptop Russian disinformation angle. It was only after the Russian disinformation claims were debunked after the election that he appears distraught. In other words, it's just like the Chinese when the Chinese said that, now we have 10 balloons from the U.S. flying over our country. They never said anything before, but now they're saying it. Nobody believes the Chinese, and nobody believes Clapper. I can't believe that people are buying this, that they're buying it. Here is the actual letter. Let's bring up, I wanted to see what the actual letter said. Because, okay, Jonathan Turley, he's a credible source, but let's go to the actual letter. So here it is. It is for all these reasons that we write to say that the arrival on the U.S. political scene, as it like a rival, that it came from someplace else, purportedly belong to Vice President Biden's son, Hunter. Much of it is related to his time serving on the Burisma board, has all the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation. And now Clapper's like, oh, I didn't mean that. We want to emphasize that we do not know if the emails provided to the New York Post and written up by Miranda Devine, way to go, Miranda Devine, are genuine or not, and that we do not have evidence of Russian involvement. Oh, we just don't have any evidence. Nobody's going to throw this out here a couple of days before the election. just that our experience makes us deeply suspicious that the Russian government played a significant role in this case. If we are right, this is Russia trying to influence how Americans vote in this election, and we believe strongly that Americans need to be aware of this. Oh, now Clapper said, "Oh, I didn't say that. No, 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 I didn't say that." There are a number of factors that make us suspicious of Russian involvement. You know, the chutzpah of these people, Clapper and the whole gang. It's just, I just like it is like, as it's just like Tucker says, you know, they're beating you up, and then they say to you, "Stop hitting me." Right? It's the most passive aggressive thing. They're beating the snot out of us, and then they say to us, "Stop hitting them." It's crazy. All right, we have another blooper from KGP. Here she is here. Let's see if this plays. It was a little dicey earlier today when I tried to play this before. Oh, here we go.
Numbers came out.
This is about the consumer price index numbers.
They show a monthly decline in real wages as well as an annual decline in real wages. Administration officials have said growing real wages is an important marker for the economy. How do you?
All right, so just so you can't hear that volume, I'm going to turn it up a little bit for you. The reporter is saying that real wages declined year over year and month over month, which basically means that as inflation is going up, or as inflation is basically eating away into any wage gain. So if you get a raise, but that raise is not as much as the rate of inflation, did you really get a raise? And the answer is no. And so here's the question from in the answer from KGP.
The setback in today's numbers.
So a couple of things. I do want to say that what we have said many times is that we believe
I do want to say what we have said many times.
the president's economic plan is indeed working, and it's giving people a little breathing room. You heard me say that.
The plan is working. We're impoverishing our people. The plan is working. It's giving people some breathing room, even though it's not. Their own results, their own numbers that they released today are not giving people any breathing room. In fact, it's harder to take your family out to dinner or put food on the table or put gas in your car or whatever you want to do for your average American today than it was a year ago or it was even last month. The consumer is starting to be fatigued by the inflation and the spending and the tax. It's not looking good. We are going to have some major job number revisions, I believe. We had the job numbers. Remember the 500 and what was it, 70,000 or something jobs that came out last month, at the beginning of the month with that report. Yeah, we're going to see some adjustments to that. We also saw some adjustments to the CPI numbers for December. And it ended up that inflation actually went up in December, not down as previously reported. We're teetering. I'm not saying that the economy is going to go up or down, but it's not raging. Ask yourself that question. Is the economy raging? Do you remember when the economy was really strong? Does that feel the same today as it was when we were in the middle of Trump? No, it doesn't. All right, over here, let's talk about the train derailment in Ohio. It is horrific. It is horrific. This is a picture. I don't know who took this picture, but all credit to them. It looks like a mushroom cloud. I think Tucker used it on his show last night. Cat turd. God, I love cat turd. Still crickets from the climate cult nuts over a real problem. Imagine that. So if you're not aware, and I'm not the expert on the train derailment, but the train derailed. I love trains, by the way. The train derailed, and then in order to fix the problem, they decided a couple of days later that they were going to basically, how do I say this, blow it up. And a lot of people have used the analogy that they're basically chemically nuked this little town. As you can see, it's in the foreground of this photo here, in order to open up the train track and get the trains running. So there was some argument that they, how do I want to say this, lifted the evacuation order to let the people go back into town prematurely so that the trains could also simultaneously run. So, you couldn't have the trains running through town, but also have the evacuation order in place. So there's been some significant criticism in that regard to, what's going on. Are decisions actually being made in the public interest? I want to bring up this last little tidbit here from Upward News. Now, I'm not familiar with Upward News, but let's just go with this. It's a story about a young woman and her chickens.
Feed her 5 hens and rooster this morning when she discovered them all lifeless, practically in the same position, with no signs of a predator entering their enclosure.
I'm beyond upset and quite panicked because they may be just chickens, but they're family.
Brashear says her chickens were alive and well yesterday.
They're not just chickens.
She believes the smell following the detonation of the train carrying chemicals that derailed in East Palestine is to blame for her bird's sudden death.
My video camera footage shows my chickens were perfectly fine before they started this burn. And as soon as they started the burn, my chickens slowed down and they died. If it can do this to chickens in one night, imagine what it's going to do to us in 20 years.
Yeah, that's
So
a
I
really
walked
good
up to
question. If they could do that to chickens in one night, what are going to be the long-term effects of this prepared burn or explosion or whatever you want to call it to the humans in the area in 20 years or even 3 or 2 years or next week? I know we joke, they're not just chickens, they're family, but if you've had animals, that's true, right? I grew up in 4-H. We had rabbits, ducks, and goats. And every chicken by their name. I didn't have chickens, but every duck by their name, and they do become kind of part of your family. It depends upon how many you have. If you have 100,000 chickens, like the ones that burned in the fire in Connecticut a week or two ago, you might not all know them, but because in that case they're more like stock. But if you have 8 or 9 chickens running around like this young lady did, or a dozen ducks like we did, you know them. You know them. And it's heartbreaking to see your pet and or your chickens or whatever they are pass away. They're all dead. Every one of those dead. Do you think she killed them? I don't think so. Chemicals. Yeah, chemicals. It's awful. There's going to be a reckoning for these decisions. And the only time we can make that reckoning, really, in America, God bless us, is at the ballot box, right? So vote early, vote often, as they used to say here in Massachusetts. Don't do that. Don't know. We only vote once. It's just a joke. Relax. In the meantime, I'm John F. Gately from America's hometown, Plymouth, Massachusetts, behind enemy lines. Have a great day. Bye-bye.